Foundation for the Defense of Democracy, senior fellow and editor of the Long War Journal. Mr. Roggio, good of you to be with us, sir.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
Why is the fall of Ramadi so significant, besides the fact it's rather close to Baghdad?
Yeah, Ramadi is the provincial capital of Anbar. It is significant. The U.S. liberated Ramadi from the Islamic State's predecessor, Al-Qaeda in Iraq, in 2006, 2007. It's also home of the Awakening. That's where the Sunni tribes organized against Al-Qaeda in Iraq and ultimately drove them out of Anbar and that movement caught on into other Sunni provinces. So the Islamic State, it's not only is it taking control of another provincial capital, having access to more recruits and resources, dealing a defeat to the government, but it's also a message to any Sunnis who want to oppose them that you can't even be safe in the capital or the home place, the birthplace of the Awakening.
So that aside now, a lot of concern, I guess, about, ISIS being so close to the capital city.
Absolutely, and that is also part of the Islamic State strategy, is to strangle the Iraqi capital. And to do this, it needs to take control of the outlying provinces. It ultimately wants to take control of the belts. These are the regions around the capital. And with Anbar firmly under the control of the Islamic State, there's only a few places left in Anbar province where the Iraqi military has a presence. The Islamic State can now focus back on taking control of Anbar. Or, I'm sorry, taking control or really squeezing Baghdad. Actually.
Yeah. Well, now, when the coalition started the airstrikes, there's a point there for a few weeks where we weren't sure the airstrikes were doing much, but then obviously the airstrikes seemed to help the forces on the ground roll back ISIS. And ISIS has been generally in a bit of a retreat mode for the last bunch of months, but suddenly they come out of nowhere and take Ramadi. Have they changed tactics? Has the coalition done something different? How did this happen?
Well, the Iraqi military or the government was really only able to take control of Tikrit and a couple of other towns that were basically on the borders where the Islamic State had control and the government had control. They did this by the backing of the Shia militias. And the Shia militias, these are supported by Iran. At least one of them is a specially designated terrorist group in the U.S. And most of these militias, their top leaders, are also designated as terrorists. These are the groups that the U.S. and coalition fought during the occupation of Iraq. So they're effective groups, but they haven't been able to deploy them inside of Anbar in the heart of Sunni land. The coalition, look, air power does not win wars. The reality is if you want to win war, if you want to control territory on the ground, you need to put boots on the ground. This is why the Iraqi military has been demoralized since last summer. It's relying more heavily on these militias. And U.S. airstrikes, they're few and far between, and it's just not enough. If the U.S. is serious about rolling back the Islamic State, it's going to have to consider putting boots on the ground.
Yeah. It doesn't look like any of the other neighbors in the neighborhood are willing to do the same. No,
absolutely not. Look, the Islamic State's predecessor, Al-Qaeda in Iraq, it gave the U.S. a good fight until the surge occurred in early 2007. And that was a concerted effort with 130,000 of the best trained troops on the planet. And that's what it took to beat Al-Qaeda in Iraq. And the Islamic State has far more money, resources, and recruits than Al-Qaeda in Iraq ever did. And so without a serious effort, either a coalition put together or the U.S. getting back into the fight, look, Arab armies, the Saudis, or the Egyptians, they're going to get chewed up by the Islamic State. This is terrain that they've fought on over the years. They're familiar with it, and they are highly effective in fighting in this terrain.
Bill Roggio is with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy. He's also a senior fellow and editor of the Long War Journal. Good of you to join us, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.